This vegan pesto pasta makes the perfect summer pasta dish. The dairy and oil-free pesto sauce is ready in minutes. It's light, fresh, flavorful, and perfect for making ahead. Hello, I'm Catherine. Bryan's behind the camera, and if you remember from our recent What I Eat in a Day cottage trip video, Bryan was pretty excited about my off-the-cuff creation of this pesto pasta.
You have so much pesto on your lips.
You agreed with him that this should be an official recipe, so hit that subscribe button, and here it is. I had taken my existing basil pesto recipe, but I lost a light. I had taken my existing basil pesto recipe, but made a couple of swaps to it. I was running low on walnuts, so I used pumpkin seeds instead. Traditional pestos have a lot of cheese in them, which adds to a fuller flavor, it gives it some saltiness, and adds some bulk to the crushed basil leaves. Many dairy-free recipes replace that cheese with a roasted nut or seed, which adds in some healthy fats and a fuller flavor. The other thing that I use to replace some of that cheesy flavor is 1 tablespoon nutritional yeast. The second swap I made, simply to cut down on the amount of oil traditionally used in pesto, was to replace the 3 tablespoons olive oil I use in my other recipe with aquafaba, or the brine in a can of chickpeas. Whether you cook your chickpeas from scratch like I do, or open up a can, you can save that brine and use it in a number of recipes as an egg or oil replacer. So here's how to make my dairy and oil-free pesto sauce. Add 2 cups packed basil leaves and small stems to a food processor. If you don't have enough basil, you can use another herb, spinach, arugula, or even carrot tops. Then add 1/3 cup roasted pumpkin seeds, 1½ tablespoons lemon juice, 1/4 teaspoon salt, 1/8 teaspoon black pepper, 1 to 2 garlic cloves, 1 tablespoon nutritional yeast, and 3 tablespoons aquafaba. Blend until smooth and slowly stream in 4 to 5 tablespoons of water to thin the sauce. Once it has reached your desired consistency, refrigerate until ready to serve. I've been pleasantly surprised with how nice of a pesto this makes even without any oil. You can, of course, use olive oil instead of the aquafaba if you prefer. And I add chopped sun-dried tomatoes to the pasta to add in extra salty, savory flavor. And I usually use oil-packed sun-dried tomatoes. I usually don't dump in all of the extra oil that accumulates down there, but it does still add a bit more richness to the pasta. If you want to keep this recipe completely oil-free though, just use dry-packed sun-dried tomatoes. Or you could also use grape tomatoes and add some extra freshness in there. If you do that, taste the pesto, you might want to add a touch of extra salt to the pesto sauce, or increase the roasted salted pumpkin seeds from the 1/3 cup I use to 1/2 cup. In addition to the sun-dried tomatoes, I also add smoked tofu into this pasta dish. And if you have watched our Tofu 101 video, then you know how much Bryan and I love smoked tofu. If you haven't had smoked tofu,
you're not living.
But if it's difficult for you to find, then there are a number of different protein sources you could add to bulk up this pasta. My tofu feta would be delicious. You could also grill up some plain tofu like I do for my vegan Caesar wraps, and then just chop that up and toss it in there. My crispy tempeh bacon that I make for my vegan eggs Benedict would be wonderful, and you could even add in something like crispy roasted chickpeas. Toss the vegan pesto sauce with your desired pasta, 180 grams diced smoked tofu, and 75 grams chopped sun-dried tomatoes. Garnish with more pumpkin seeds, fresh sprouts, or any other delicious toppings you can think of.
This smells so good. Oh yeah. I got nothing to say. This is delicious.
Yeah, delicious to say.
Yeah.
I think this one is perfect for doing what we did before, taking it to a cottage, because you can make the pesto in advance and then you just cook some pasta and toss everything together.
You even make the pasta in advance.
Good. If you're not totally oil-free, then you can just mix a tiny bit of oil in with the pasta, and that's a little trick for not having it stick together into one massive clump. Also good for taking along to like a barbecue, or even just for your packed work or school lunches. Every time I've made this, I've added a tiny bit of different things because I hardly ever have 2 cups of basil. If you're like me and you only have 1 basil plant, you don't want to totally destroy it for this recipe, then feel feel free to add in something else, because the first time I made this at the cottage, I used parsley in addition to the basil, and that was good. When I made this for the photos a couple days ago, I used like almost half spinach, and that worked. And today I used a tiny bit of spinach.
It's delicious.
Carrot tops, arugula or rocket.
This really changes up your pasta game. You know, I feel like everybody's got their Alfredos, their tomato sauces. Now you got this.
Throw in a pesto. And if you're wondering, this pesto sauce makes 200 milliliters and costs me just a touch over $4 Canadian. If I buy an equivalent amount of a store-bought traditional pesto, it'd be about $5 for me. And most pestos have dairy in them. It's actually a little hard for me to find dairy-free pesto sauce. And the only one I found was on Amazon, and it was like $23. So this one is definitely gonna save you some money.
I like pesto, but not that much.
And this whole pasta dish cost me just under $12. And the majority of that remaining cost is the smoked tofu. Like I said before, there's all kinds of different protein sources that you could put into this, and I think all of those options would be delicious. Oh, and if you want to make this gluten-free, I'm pretty sure I've made spaghetti squash dishes with pesto. So spaghetti squash or zucchini noodles would make a delightful meal.
And sprouts, don't forget about the sprouts. These are so good on here.
So check out our how to grow sprouts at home video if you haven't seen that one yet. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Your curls look really good, by the way.
Thank you.
It was beautiful.
Oh, he doesn't just say that when the camera's on, but you get to see it too.